Scene 3 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs by Jessie Braham White. In the house of the seven dwarfs. The dwarfs' house is very tiny. It is built of rough stones and logs, and niched into a hillside in the depths of the great wood. It has but one room, 2 windows, and a half door. Along one side of the room are ranged 7 little beds of different sizes. On the other is a stone fireplace for cooking, and a rustic pump with a barrel under its spout to catch the water. In the middle of the stone floor stands a low table with 7 places laid for supper. A single candle on the table lights the room. Through the window we see the forest, dim in the moonlight. Presently the little brown bird flies past, and perches on a branch just outside, still calling Snow White to follow him. They have come a long way, and she is very tired and hungry. But as she sees the little house, and realizes at last where the brown bird was leading her, she runs up and peeps in through the window.
"Oh, was it toward this light you were leading me, brown bird? Why, it's a little house. Are you flying away now? Please let me thank you first. See, I blow you a kiss." He's gone. Perhaps birds don't like kisses. Their faces are so sharp. "Goodbye, little friend."
She looks cautiously through the window into the house.
What a queer little room. 7 beds, and all so small. There must be lots of children in the family. Nobody with so many children could be wicked. "May I come in?"
As there is no answer, she knocks at the door and opens it a crack.
"Please, good people, may I come in to rest? Just for a moment. I'm lost in the forest."
Still no answer. She creeps into the room and looks about.
Nobody at home. But they couldn't mind if I sat down. Just a minute. Oh, there is the children's supper, all laid out. I'm so hungry. If I took just a bit, only a tiny bit, from each place, I'm sure they couldn't be angry.
She goes to the table, and as she nibbles a morsel at each place, she sings to herself.
"A sip of water from this cup, of porridge just one tiny sup. I'll take this little knife to spread a corner of the next one's bread, and borrow this wee fork to break a morsel from this barley cake. I'll take 1 cherry from these 4, but not a single mouthful more, no, not a single mouthful more." Nobody could begrudge me that, but I'd like to do something to pay for my supper.
She looks about.
There's plenty to be done. It isn't at all a tidy house.
She yawns, and then shaking herself.
"Wake up, Snow White. You mustn't get sleepy yet. Not till the people come home."
But she cannot quite stifle another yawn.
"There's a broom. Suppose I sweep a little."
She begins to sweep, but the broom raises such a cloud of dust that, coughing, she has to stop at once.
"Dear me, that only makes things worse. This floor needs a good scrubbing. I might make up the beds."
She goes to the biggest bed, but she is so tired that she sits down on it a moment before beginning.
This one looks as if it hadn't been made up for years and years and years. I wonder if it's as humpy to lie on as it is to sit on.
She lies down to try it.
Oh, it's more. It's humpy and bumpy and bumpy and humpy, and...
Her voice trails away into silence. She has fallen asleep. For a time all is quiet in the little room. Then from far underground is a sound of distant knocking. It comes nearer till it sounds just under the house. Finally, a great stone slab in the floor is pushed up slowly, and from an underground passage that leads from the house into the deep mines, 6 of the 7 dwarfs clamber up into sight. Their names are Blick, Flick, Glick, Snick, Plick, and Whick. They are very small, the tallest hardly above your waist, but they are extremely old, and their beards are long and grey. Each carries a lighted lantern and a pickaxe, and bears a heavy sack over his shoulder. As soon as the last one has climbed into the room, they form in line, with Blick, the eldest, at the head.
"Now, brothers, evening roll call. Blick. Here. Flick."
"Here."
Glick,
Here.
snick,
Here.
plick,
Here.
quick,
Here.
quee, quee.
Blick shakes his head sadly.
Late as usual. He's been stealing again. Whatever shall we do with that boy?
All the dwarfs sigh and hang their heads with shame at Quee's conduct. But Blick goes on.
Well, brothers, what result of today's work? 1/2 ton of gold nuggets for mine.
He takes a handful of enormous nuggets from his sack. The others also exhibit their treasures as they name them.
100 weight of silver dust.
50 pounds of diamonds.
A bushel of rubies.
A gallon of emeralds.
A peck of opals.
Fair, fair, but we ought to work longer hours.
Yes, what's the good of coming home except to sleep?
And have supper.
Oh, that supper.
I know, it's wretched. If we cook at night, it's too hot to eat. If we cook it in the morning, it's cold and dusty by night. But what else can we do?
And I'd rather sleep underground than in those beds.
So would we.
I know, they haven't been made in 12 years, but it doesn't pay to take time from digging diamonds to make beds, so what can we do?
Nothing.
But if we didn't come home to supper, we wouldn't have to wash.
Oh, brothers, washing is a duty. Hush, I think I hear Quee.
They all cock their heads sidewise like robins and listen.
Yes, that's Quee. He has been stealing again. We must scold him soundly.
It never does any good.
But we must bring him up in the way he should go. He is the youngest of us. He's only 99 next April. Clear away and ready for him.
They pile their sacks in a corner and squat on the floor in a semicircle, with Blick, like a presiding judge, in the center. Quee creeps up stealthily through the underground passage. He is much the smallest, but grey-bearded like the rest. As he faces his brothers, one finger creeps into his mouth. Blick greets him sternly.
Quee, you are late again.
Quee nods.
Been stealing as usual, I suppose?
Quee nods, shaking their fingers at him reprovingly.
Oh.
You know it's wrong.
Very, very wrong.
Quee nods.
Did anybody catch you at it?
Quee shakes his head.
That's good, as far as it goes.
Did you get me a mousetrap?
Quee nods.
And my candles.
Quee nods.
And a pin?
Quee nods.
I'm glad of that. I've never seen a pin.
Of course, you understand, Quee, that stealing is a sin, and that your conduct makes us very sad?
Very sad.
Sad.
Will you promise to reform and never, never steal again?
Wait. Give him the list of things to get tomorrow first.
Dear me, I almost forgot. Quee, tie a string around your finger to remember by. Now, what do you all want?
A chain, a plane, a weather vane.
A hat, a mat, a pussy cat.
A pound of brass.
A pane of glass.
A crock, a lock, an 8-day clock.
A can, a pan, a pomely fan.
A tack, a sack, an almanac.
A can of soup.
A chicken coop.
A map, a cap, a snappy trap.
A pole, a bowl, a baker's roll.
A rake, a cake, a pound of steak.
A peck of meal.
A pickled eel.
A slate. A plate. A 10-pound weight.
That's all for tomorrow. But remember, young man, if it's a sin to steal a pin, how much worse it must be to steal a 10-pound weight. You appreciate that?
Quee nods sadly.
Brothers, we shall have to correct him again tomorrow night. He is incorrigible.
Incorrigible.
Now for the evening washing. Get the basin, Quee.
Glad that his daily scolding is over, Quee runs cheerfully and fetches a basin of water, a big sponge, and a towel.
No flinching now, brothers. Line up. Right faces.
They all, except Quee, stand close together and thrust their faces over one another's shoulders with eyes closed. Running down the line, Quee washes all their right cheeks with one long sweep of his sponge.
Reverse.
They all turn and face in the opposite direction, and Quee, running up the line, washes all their other cheeks.
Right faces.
With a single sweep of his towel, Quee now dries all their right cheeks, and when Blick commands
Reverse,
he dries the opposite sides in the same neat and speedy way, and the evening washing is finished.
There. That's over for another 24 hours.
Thank goodness.
Oh, come. It's quick and comparatively painless. Only Quee gets dirtier and dirtier every year.
But somebody must do it.
He's the youngest.
It's his duty.
Nevertheless, he's a disgrace to the family.
Quee bows his head in shame.
I'm glad that you realize it at least.
And now, supper.
Supper. No hurry, it's been getting cold ever since breakfast.
With lagging steps they march to the table, and are about to eat, when Blick starts back in surprise.
I say, someone's been drinking from my cup.
Someone has eat my porridge up.
And used my brand new knife to spread a monstrous corner of Quee's bread.
Someone has used my fork.
To break a quarter off my barley cake.
One cherry's missing from my 4.
And
goodness gracious,
how much more?
They gaze at each other in amazement.
Brothers, there must be robbers in the house.
Or pirates.
Or burglars.
Probably burglars. If so, they are under the beds. Burglars always are. Hush. Let every man look under his own bed.
Each dwarf creeps to his bed and peers cautiously under it. Then, one after the other, they rise, shaking their heads and saying,
Nobody under my bed.
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 Blick is the last to rise, but as he does so, he sees Snow White and cries in a tense whisper,
There's something in it. Look, brothers.
In wonder, the dwarfs creep about Blick's bed, and holding their lanterns high, gaze down upon the sleeping Snow White. An of admiration breaks from their lips.
What is it?
I know. It's a child.
No, it's a girl. I saw one once.
Well, girl or child, it's the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Or I? Is it tame, or will it fly away like a bird when it wakes up?
I've heard that children are quite tame, and they can talk.
Oh.
I tell you, this isn't a child. It's a girl. I don't think girls can talk.
They all heave a sigh of disappointment.
I wish she'd stay with us just so that we could look at her.
She won't.
Why not?
Of course she won't. Are we handsome or young or tall? In fact, aren't we dwarfs?
They all hang their heads.
But if we didn't tell her that...
Flick, I wonder at you. Besides, she might find it out.
She's beautifully white and clean. Look, she's had the broom. She's been trying to sweep.
I can't bear to think of her leaving us.
None of us can.
I'm going to stay up all night just to watch her.
Do you think there's any way we can persuade her to stay?
I'm afraid not.
Even if we laid presents on her bed?
What kind of presents? Gold and diamonds?
Oh, not common things like that. Really valuable things like my jackknife.
Oh, things like that. It might, but I'm afraid not.
We might try anyhow. Let each man give the most valuable thing he has in the world.
Blick collects the gifts. Each dwarf names his present lovingly as he takes it from his pocket.
My thimble.
My almanac.
My empty bottle.
And my pet frog.
Laying the gifts gently on the foot of Snow White's bed.
There, that may help. But no, it's no use, brothers. There's Quee.
Yes, there is
very
Quee.
wee.
We might hide him?
She'd be sure to find him sooner or later.
He might reform.
But we could never pretend he wasn't dirty. He hasn't been washed for 50 years.
With a sudden inspiration.
Brothers, why not wash him now?
We might.
We will.
Flick, you're a genius. But it must be done at once, or he won't be dry by morning. Get the utensils. Here's the pump to douse him with.
Here are suds to souse him with.
Here's the sponge to sop him with.
Here's the broom to mop him with.
Here's the soap to scrub him with.
Here's the cloth to rub him with.
They surround Quee, who stands abashed, his finger in his mouth.
Quee, you are going to be...
Washed! They carry him to the barrel, plump him in with a great splash, and pump on him. Then, as they scrub and rub and soap and stir him about in the water, they chant in chorus.
Here's the pump to douse him with.
Here are suds to souse him with.
Here's the sponge to sop him with.
Here's the broom to mop him with.
Here's the soap to scrub him with.
Here's the cloth to rub him with. Rub,
Scrub,
Mop,
Sop,
Souse.
Douse,
rub.
scrub.
mop.
sop.
Souse.
douse.
In their excitement, they forgot to be as quiet as they had meant to be, and Snow White stirs in her sleep. Then she wakes and sits up.
Where is this? Oh, there are the children that live here. Why, they're not children. They have long beards. They're queer little old men. They'll never let me stay with them. But I must tell them I'm here.
She rises and, standing by the bed, says shyly,
I beg your pardon.
The dwarfs turn suddenly, with a little curtsy.
I'm sorry if I have disturbed you, but I was lost in the forest, and when I saw your house I was so tired and hungry that I came in and took a little food, without asking. Then I'm afraid I fell asleep.
She waits for an answer, but the dwarfs gaze at her in silence, so she falters on.
I'd pay for it, but I haven't any money. So all I can do is to say thank you and good night.
She moves reluctantly to the door. The dwarfs sigh deeply. She turns for a farewell curtsy.
Thank you very much.
She half shuts the door behind her, then reopens it to repeat,
Good night.
There is no answer, except another heavy sigh from the dwarfs. With sudden pity she bursts out,
Oh, you're not dumb, are you?
No, we're not dumb, but you're a girl, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a girl.
And young?
I'm not very old.
We don't know how to talk to young people.
Well, most grown people begin, Why, how you've grown. And usually the next thing is, How do you like your school?
How you've grown.
How do you like your school?
smiling but a little embarrassed.
Well, perhaps it is a little late for conversation. It's long past bedtime, isn't it?
Long past.
There are 6 of you and 7 beds, aren't there?
Hastily putting the cover on the barrel.
Yes, there are 7 beds.
Oh, before I go, perhaps I ought to tidy the one I slept in. I didn't tumble it much.
She goes to the bed.
What are these things on it?
She starts back.
Oh, one's a frog. It's alive.
He was my frog. He's perfectly tame.
What a funny thing to put on a bed.
Edging toward her eagerly.
They were meant to be presents.
Presents? Is it Christmas here?
We don't know. We don't know what Christmas is.
Oh, somebody's birthday?
No, it's nobody's birthday.
Then I don't see.
They were meant to be presents for you.
For me?
We were afraid you wouldn't like them.
I knew you wouldn't like them.
But I do like them. Do you mean that you're not angry with me? That you don't dislike me so very much?
Dislike you?
We think you're the most wonderful thing we've ever seen.
Oh, you darlings! Oh, I beg your pardon. Perhaps that wasn't respectful.
Nobody ever called us darlings before, so we don't know.
But it sounds nice.
And you wouldn't mind if I should stay tonight? Only just tonight?
We wouldn't mind if you should stay forever, Only just forever.
Forever?
Oh, will you?
Oh, will you let me? Please let me live with you. I could be so useful.
But our housekeeping.
That's just how I could be useful. I can cook and sew and sweep and brew and make beds and, oh, lots of things.
Will you excuse us a moment, please?
He calls the dwarfs together and whispers to them.
Did I hear right? Did she say she would stay?
She did.
Whatever shall we say?
We don't know.
Turning again to Snow White.
Could you tell us what it's usual to say when you're so glad that it almost bursts you?
Would hip hip hooray do?
It sounds right. Hip, hip, hurrah.
Hip, hip, hurrah.
Then, deciding that it does fit their feelings, they shout in a joyous outburst.
Hip,
Hip, hip, hurrah!
Clapping her hands.
Oh, please may I say hip hip hooray too? I am so glad and grateful.
hip,
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 hip, hurrah!
But, oh, you may not want me when I tell you who I am. It may be dangerous.
Do you steal?
No, not so bad as that. My name is Snow White.
It sounds extremely clean.
This morning I was a princess.
She sits on Blick's bed to tell her story. She is growing drowsy again.
What's a princess?
Why, the daughter of a king and queen. My stepmother is Queen Brangomar. She hates me so much that I am afraid there must be something horrid about me. But I am sure Prince Florimond didn't not like me, for...
She sinks back onto the bed and her eyes close. The dwarfs put their fingers to their lips. Then she revives a little and murmurs,
For a year and a day. Oh, what was I saying? I'm so sleepy. Please, mayn't I tell you tomorrow night? All I can think of now is good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good.
There is a silence.
Brothers, she's asleep, but she'll stay. She'll stay.
hip, hip, hurrah!
I'm so happy I'm sad.
Wiping away a tear with his long beard.
I'm so happy, it's making me cry. We're all so happy.
They all wipe their eyes with their beards.
We mustn't wake her. Not a sound now. We'll be quietest in bed.
Each dwarf creeps toward his bed.
She's in my bed. Well, I'll take Flicks.
He moves to the next bed, jumps in, and pulls the clothes over his head. Dwarfs always sleep with the bedclothes over their heads. Of course, each of the others has to move up one bed. As they pop in, one after another, and cover their heads, they cry,
I'll take Glicks.
I'll take Snicks.
I'll take Plix.
I'll take Wicks.
I'll take Queeze.
sitting up suddenly.
Brothers, we've forgotten Quee.
They all sit bolt upright. Then in a whisper they call,
Quee!
The cover over the water barrel is pushed up, and Quee's head appears. He is very wet, but washed as clean and pink as a new doll.
Quee, she'll stay, but you'll have to sleep in the barrel.
Hip hip, hurrah!
He disappears again into the barrel, and the curtain falls. End of Scene 3.